what's happening, y'all? Jason Ricci here, and welcome back to Free Friday. Today we're going to be talking about comparing ourselves to others and all of the different things that go along with. This is my little Super 8 hotel room. I am California, in a little town called Grass Valley, and it's kind of rainy, but it's beautiful, very beautiful. Look at this tree. A rock coming out. That's not artificial. That's really real. It's beautiful. It's very wet and a little chilly and nice in its way, in its beautiful way. Gorgeous. Okay, so there's me in the mirror. Here's the harmonica case, and now you're going into it. Comparing ourselves to others. Well, when we pick up this harmonica, we pick up a lot of the times a whole mess of anxiety. What do I mean by that? I mean, like, when we start getting serious about something, and when we care about something, well, we care about how we sound, we care about how hard we're working, we care about the results that we're getting. And the results not only on the instrument, but maybe how others perceive us. Every time I pick up this harmonica, I'm picking up, oh wow, I hope I sound good today, right? Or I hope I sound better than yesterday. Or am I as good? Have I lost something on this? How is my tone? Is my tone good? Is my tone bad? Is my intonation off? Am I too traditional? Am I just repeating stuff that other people have done? Am I too modern? Am I not working on knowing what came before me? These are all common questions. And it happens with any instrument, not just harmonica, right? Am I playing too many notes? Am I playing too few notes because I'm thinking about playing too few notes? And then, is that contrived? Is that too cerebral? Right? Am I just running scales? Do I know any scales? Am I just running arpeggios? Do I know any arpeggios? Why don't I know arpeggios? How come I can't do this? There's a big one. I can't do this. Or let's talk about some of the other ones. I'm really great. I'm really good. That's another one, right? They're not all bad. Sometimes they're too good. They're too good. Sometimes we think too much of ourselves. This guy once, his name's John Yarling, a drummer down in Florida, a jazz drummer. He was playing some blues gigs. I was just a kid. I was 24, and he said, you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as you think you are either. And I have found over the years for that to be almost always completely true. For example, when I have a great night, in my opinion, I tend to judge the great night on that I played everything I wanted to play, and I didn't make any mistakes, and everything was in tune or mostly in tune, and the harmonica didn't stick, and I thought that I sang well and played well. Then I'll think, well, that's a great night. Then I'll watch the video that somebody recorded, and I'll be excited. And most of the time I find that because I was playing so well that I sort of overplayed, put in too much stuff, because I was feeling myself, right? Other nights, I've gone out there and thought I really had a really horrible night, and then I've saw the video pop up on YouTube, and I said to myself, oh geez, Jason, do you really want to beat yourself up and watch this video? If you from a bad night. And then some little voice said, well, you can learn from this. So I click the video and I watch it, and it's actually pretty good. So we're our own worst judges of ourselves. Then on top of that, we compare ourselves to other people all the time. I mean, a lot of you, when you're watching these videos and you see me demonstrating some technique like an arpeggio and then getting fancy and doing all these different things, right? You think, well, I can't do that, or you go and try it and it doesn't sound like that, and you think, oh man, I'm really terrible, I'm never going to get this. These are normal thoughts. The trick to them is to let them come and then to let them go. Since I started playing over 30 years ago, I'm 50, I just turned 50, I've noticed that the only thing that's really changed is I still have all of the thoughts that I told you about. I can't do this, I'm no good at this, I should be better at this by now, I'm lazy, I don't have the time to put into this, I'm just not smart enough, right? Or some of the other thoughts, I don't need to do this, I don't want to do this, that's not cool, that's not what I'm trying to do musically. These judgments about things, including judgments about things that are like 6,000 years old, 3,000 years old, scales, right? Who am I, right? But yet, like my fear takes over. My fear takes over and says, well, I don't need to learn that, right? So I still have these thoughts. The difference is I've learned to recognize them for what they are, and they're distractions. So they come into my mind, and I just try to, and the only thing that I've gotten better at since I was in my teens until now is kind of not letting them take up as much space in my head. I've gotten better at going, oh yeah, I hear you, ego. I hear you, Jason, you're really great, or you're really terrible, because that's the ego too, telling you that too. And yeah, that's funny, yeah, but it's not going to work today. It's not going to work today. I'm going to figure out what the next right note to play is. It's really good. I think scales and arpeggios are really good because they require you to concentrate so much, especially when you get into the different scale exercises, that it really doesn't leave much room for those thoughts. But those thoughts will occur before you sit down to really tackle something like that. And or especially when you're just trying to understand what they are. And you might be telling yourself, oh, well, Little Walter didn't need any of that and stuff. And the thing is that Little Walter did use all that stuff, and whether he had the names for it or not is irrelevant. But he was listening to music. So now is a different time. And it is a different time, both good and bad. There is more information ever now about how to play this thing. Videos from Tomlin, from Ronnie Shellis, from Liam Ward, from Adam Gusso, from myself, from Howard Levy, and so many others, Will Wild, everybody, on how to do this, that I never had anything like that growing up. So in a way, though, it was better. When I was first coming up, I would just see somebody and I would ask them one question, like, how do you tongue block? And they'd say, take a mouthful of harp and then put your tongue on. And then I'd do that for 6 or 7 months until I saw another person, and then I'd go, yeah, I got that tongue blocking thing. And he'd be like, oh, well, or she'd be like, it was usually a he for me. Now that's the other good thing. There's more good women harmonica players than ever before. But anyway, they would be like, take your tongue on and off. Or move it side to side, which I can't do. And I'd be like, oh, and I'd work on that for 6 months. There was no internet shoving down my throat, pedals and microphones and single note tongue blocking and overblows and blow bends and blow bend tongue blocking and tuning harmonicas and replacing reeds and custom harmonicas and amplifiers. Anyway, there wasn't any of that. There wasn't arguments about traditional versus this. I mean, there were, but they were far and few between, So anyway, in a way, I had a lot of time to sit with one thing and get good at it before having another thing. But let's really dig into the subject of comparing ourselves to others. It's important to do that. We need to listen. We need to have a balance, okay? We need to listen to other musicians and say to ourselves, okay, I think there's something I can learn from that person. and I should listen to this, and I should think about how I can do one thing that they're doing to try to get better. Now, the temptation is to listen to this person, and here's some of the thoughts that come up, and I'm never going to be that good. I should throw away my harmonica. Let me put it this way. When I was first starting out as a young man, I wanted to be the best in the world. And I would put in 8 and 12 hours a day of practice for years. And in my mind, I was thinking, nobody else in the world is practicing this hard, so I'm going to be the best, And then I heard Howard Levy. And other people too. And in a way, the burden of that was lifted. There will always come somebody better. Eventually, Muhammad Ali was defeated. Mike Tyson was defeated. Eventually, there will always be somebody better. So what is the point of it? The point of it is for your personal growth. Our relationship with our instrument and all of the thoughts that I just told you about is a microcosm for a bigger thing in life. And that's what we want to focus on, is the next right thing. One day at a time, so to speak, 1 minute at a time, one note in the scale at a time, one note in the arpeggio, one note in the lick at a time. And we want to try to see if we can be a little better than we were yesterday. And here's the thing, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes we have days where we're just not feeling it. And one of the best things about studying music is I can still play scales and arpeggios and cerebral ideas during those time periods where I'm not really having an emotional or spiritual reaction to the instrument, which is normal. Not every single day is a magical, shining, bright, beautiful, soulful, with some melancholy and sad and profound experience. Some days we just don't feel it. Richard Pryor, the comedian, and I'm going to swear here, so trigger warning. Richard Pryor, the comedian, they said, "What's the hardest part about being a stand-up comic?" And he said, "Sometimes I just don't fucking feel funny." Well, we don't always feel bluesy, okay? Or we don't always feel soulful. But one of the things that we can do is rely on technique. So rather than trying to, play the licks that I played last night, or play the licks that I played, or the licks that Little Walter played or something, I could go, okay, well, the major third is part of the first chord, and then the next chord is a 4, so I'm going to pick a 7 of 4. 1. 3. Here goes a 5. 7. 4. A little 4 chord, 7th and 6th chord arpeggio. Back to the 3, 4, 6. Right, and so you see what I'm doing? So, and the funny thing is I'm actually getting engaged emotionally by jumping into that. So here I am taking music theory, and it's not even music theory, it's techniques, chords, arpeggios, scales, and I'm looking at them and I'm just going, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work on this. I'm not thinking about, really Paul Butterfield or Little Walter or anything like that. So that's one way not to compare ourselves, is to dive into the study of music. But we do need to listen to Butterfield. We do need to listen to Little Walter. right? We need to listen to these guys. Sonny Boy. Anyway, that wasn't a very good Sonny Boy. Listen to Rick Estrin. All of these guys, Cotton, we need to listen to them and have fun. And we want to try to do their stuff just to feel what it feels like to do that. We might be able to take some of their stuff later and kind of make it our own. But it's important to study what comes before us. In skateboarding, one of the things that has become very popular these days is this thing called an NBD. An NBD. An NBD stands for never been done. So if you're a skateboarder and you're trying to make a name for yourself, or you've already got a name and you're trying to keep that name, one of the things you want to do is you want to go to a famous spot, and you like say I'll give you a famous one is the Hollywood 16. It's a 16 set of stair and a rail. And you want to go there and you want to try a trick that's never been done down those stairs or down that rail. You get it on video. Now there's this measuring stick, and oh, so-and-so did a laser flip down the Hollywood 16, right? So a lot of guys go there and get broke off because they never tried to ollie it first, right? Or maybe they did, but you know what I mean? What we need to do is we need to feel what it feels like to do what others have done. And I remember when I was first studying Little Walter, it wasn't so much that I wanted to copy Little Walter as I just wanted to feel what it felt like to play like that. And that is good. That's good. Now, at some point, though, we need to think, well, okay, I think I could do something extra, right? And that extra would be that never been done. But we're not searching for that, right? That's something that's going to happen organically by the love of skateboarding, by the love of harmonica, by the love of carpentry, by the love of cooking, by the love of cycling. Whatever it is that you're interested in, it will come organically from doing the work. But there needs to be some bravery there in terms of you need to think, I'm going to do this even though I've never heard anything like it before. So maybe it's not good because nobody else is doing it. So that's scary. And that's something that you will have to deal with. But you'll know when it works. And one of the cool things about theory is, well, this is the third note of the chord, and clearly it sounds good. So I'm just going to stay on this note. It's really easy to get wrapped up in saying, I'm not as good as this person, or thinking that, hey, I'm better than that person. And a lot of times people will say some things like, you've worked really hard at your instrument, you've gotten really good, and you're playing your blues walking bass line with 16/7 chords, and you're tongue blocking. Right? And you got it, and then somebody comes along and gets up at the jam afterwards and plays. Right? And then some woman in the audience comes up and says, well, what did you think of that guy? And you're being polite, and you say, oh, well, he's okay. And she says, I think he's wonderful. And you're thinking to yourself, that guy he's just blowing in and out. He doesn't even know what he's doing. He hasn't done any of the work. And then she says something like, well, you guys just have different styles, right? And you're thinking to yourself, well, that's the style of somebody that's never worked at it. Right? My style is one of effort and attention and stuff. And see, that's the thing, right? You got to remember that. A lot of people have no idea about what is good music and what isn't good music, or what somebody who has worked at something has and somebody who hasn't sounds like. They just don't know. So that's more reason for you to do it for you, right? Let's talk candidly about Howard. So, in my opinion, Howard Levy is the greatest harmonica player in the world. Now, the reason I think that is because I believe very, very much so that you can measure technique. You can look at somebody's knowledge of chords and rhythm. Melody, rhythm, and harmony are the three components of music. That's it. Melody, rhythm, and harmony. And Howard encompasses all of those things in a very at an extremely high level. Now, whether or not you like Howard's music or not, I think is pretty irrelevant. I mean, I got times where I would rather listen to Taj Mahal than Howard, but there's times where I think, like I said, that there's to me, unquestionably, he's the greatest, I think, that has ever lived on the instrument so far. But not everybody likes Howard. So can you imagine what it would be like to be Howard and to have people say, to work that hard at something, hours and hours and hours a day, still studying piano, studying all this, and to have people say, oh, well, I think Jason Ricci sounds better than you because he's playing, blues, or that stuff you're playing just sounds like nonsense, right? Man, that would be pretty hurtful. But I know what that feeling's like because I've had the same degree happen to me. And here's the thing, that's not why we play. Howard, I promise you, does not play so that people will tell him he's the best in the world. He plays because he wants to feel what it feels like to do that. He wants to express that. And what's in my soul and what comes out of my instrument is very, very subjective, artistically. Like I said, music is melody, rhythm, and harmony. But if you like Howlin' Wolf with the two licks, right, if that's your thing, right, I get that. One of my wife's favorite harmonica player is often Howlin' Wolf. If you just want a few notes and you want them to sound big, I get it. It makes complete sense. And you're not interested in the harmonic minor scale and overblows. That's not your thing. That's cool. That's cool, right? I remember this woman. She's still around. We're still friends. Her name is Dara Longobardi, and she was a car salesman for Hertz Car Sales out in Boise, Idaho. I was going to college out there. I was studying wildlife management, and I wanted to be like I wanted to go into captive breeding for endangered species, but I realized I couldn't make it through that. Right now, why? Why couldn't I make it through that? I guess I just didn't have the passion to get through botany, the passion to get through chemistry. Now, I usually joke and I tell people, well, I wasn't smart enough to get through those. But here's the thing. Passion has to be number one. If you love this thing, it will carry you through that. If this thing is not something that you love and you just want to get kind of good at it, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But passion will carry you through. Anyway, she says we were listening to Sugar Blue, and me and this harmonica player, Madison Slim, I was like 17 years old. We're at her house up in the mountains, and we're listening to Sugar Blue, and she put him on it. This was back in my days of just traditional, no overblows, no fast stuff, Little Walter or it's crap, right? That's how I was, and I'm glad I was that way for a while. It grounded me, and I'm grateful to Madison Slim for that. And he said, oh well, we told her that both of us said, oh, well, that's just a bunch of nonsense, and it doesn't have any soul. And she said to us, how do you know what's in his soul? She said, I feel it. Right? Now, the same thing happened to me with Howard. I used to, not really get it. I had heard UFO tofu. Years later, after having some life experiences, growing up, getting to spend some time around Latin culture and jazz culture and black culture and all of that, I got that same album. I was working at a record store and somebody brought it in and I bought it for the point of selling, and before I put it on the shelf, I listened to it. That same record hit me completely different at a different time in my life. So what's working for you now may not work for you later. Things just happen, in a ways that we can't always understand, and we have to have faith and just do the next right thing. So comparing ourselves to others is a necessary thing that we have to do. We need to look at what other people are playing, and we need to get good ideas and have fun things, and we need to ask ourselves, where do I sit? But at the same time, I cannot let the fact that if somebody is technically better than me create self-defeating thoughts. Now, it's normal to have those thoughts. Again, what I cannot do is, this is what I meant to say, what I cannot do is attach myself to those things for very long. I have to remember that this is not about being the best. This is not about being the greatest. This is not even about being able to do that thing the first time, the second time, or the 100th. One of the most beautiful things that we get out of a struggle is wisdom and patience. And these are the things that last a long time. Anyway, guys, my phone's ringing off the hook right now, so I'm wondering if there's an emergency. So I'm going to have to end the lesson. I could go on a lot longer than this. I want to say that I'm very grateful to be in the position I'm in. I'm on stage right now with many wonderful harmonica players, and this comparing ourselves to others thing is a thing. I see other people in the band, other musicians comparing themselves to me. I see myself doing the same thing to others. It's a natural thing. We want to, the best thing that we can do is celebrate. If we can love the differences in everybody without judgment and recognize that melody, rhythm, and harmony are not everything. They are not. The knowledge of all three of those things and the execution of all three of those things does not necessarily make great art. But we also have to recognize that great art is tangibly improved by using our brain. So we need that yin and yang of emotion and intellect, and we need to blend those two things together. Like Pat Ramsey. Now we're getting into Jason. Yeah, all right, whatevs. I'm judging myself right now. Just be better than you were yesterday, and if you're not, that's okay. Let's fight through it. Charles Bukowski said, what matters most is how we walk through the fire. It's not whether we make it through the fire or not. It'd be nice if we did, but it's how. It's how. Did I go through kicking and complaining and moaning and groaning and be, or did I have some fun and some humility? Did I learn some humility? Did I have some fun? Did I have some not so fun times and not react to that in a way that was hurtful to others or to myself, right? I'm learning all this stuff, and this is everything. I will never, ever get this. But I'm here to tell you about it, too, in case, this is the first time you've heard it in words, and maybe it can help somebody else. I love you guys. Thank you very much, Patreon. Thank you to the Lone Wolf Blues Company for making my microphone and my pedals that I love. They're very fun. For Hohner Harmonicas, for Blue Moon Harmonicas, right? And my signature harmonica here. And to pedal pad, pedal boards, and harp gear amplifiers. And thank you very much, Patreon. Thank you for the ideas, constant ideas. Thank you for the support. I love reading you guys chatting with each other. Check out my Patreon site below. Thank you guys very much. I hope you enjoyed this Free Friday. Bye-bye.